Hello, friends. This mic is on. Y'all can hear me okay? Perfect. So I am here because talking about perspective and a change in perspective is part of our journey, our own inner transformation. And have I mastered this journey? No. So as I learn, I take the opportunity to think about how the lessons that I'm learning could be helpful. And what I'm sharing with you today is nothing, again, that I've mastered, but it's what I'm practicing. So I can talk about what I'm doing, and then hopefully, if it's of some use to you, maybe you could try and practice it too. But the intention for tonight is to give us an opportunity to reflect on what our current perspectives are, what our perspectives, how we might be able to change them, and how we can practice, maybe together. So that's the hope for tonight. So when we think about what is perspective, the dictionary is always the first place I start. Even though I'm a native English speaker, when I want to talk about something, I look it up in the dictionary to see what the dictionary says. Many times that will deepen my own awareness. And what was so interesting is I knew for some time now I would be giving the lecture tonight. And I had been thinking what I wanted to share, and I knew I wanted to talk about changing perspectives. But when I looked up in the dictionary, I had completely forgotten this first definition, is this art of drawing on a flat surface, right? In a way that indicates how tall something is, right? The height, the width, the depth, the position of what the artist is drawing in relation to each other, and when it's viewed from our particular point. You know, and then the second one is what I was trying to talk about, what I thought I was going to bring up, which is, you know, our attitudes, a particular attitude or a way of thinking regarding something. It's our point of view. So is this okay? I'm hearing like the volume change. It's good? All right. So what was so interesting, and this is why I think it's always good to look something up in the dictionary, even if you're a native speaker of whatever language you're talking about, is because you can begin to deepen. So I looked, is anyone ever here taking drawing classes? Just raise your hand. Anyone ever taken drawing class? So y'all remember the 1 point, 2 point, 3 point perspective, right? So this will look familiar to you, right? So there's the 1 point perspective, right? Which is you just see the flat picture. There's the 2 point perspective where you can see a little more like the sides of the building. There's the 3 point perspective where you can see a little bit more. And when we say perspective, what they're talking about is like, what's the vanishing point? So you would draw, you know, all the lines for 1 point go to one vanishing point. For 2 point perspective, the vanishing points are on either side. And as you can see for the 3 point perspective, there's 3 vanishing points. But what's the difference between these drawings, right? The first one, you only see the front of the building. The second one, you see the sides of the building. The third one, you can see the height, the various heights of more than one building, and you get a sense of, wow, that's like flashing a little bit, but that'll be all right. You will get a sense of the different depths and that there's multiple buildings, and you can see multiple sides of the buildings, and to a certain degree, some of the spaces between the buildings. So why is this important? Think about this, we're gonna come back to it. But when we go back to our personal point of view, our personal perspective, you know, what informs that? You know, what informs our personal perspective, what I thought was interesting, I was doing some lookup on Kardecpedia. I think I've told you all that's one of my favorite go-tos for doing research on Spiritist teachings. And I just kind of put in the word perspective and said, like, what are the teachings about it? And this was one of the first that came from the Spirit's book, right? That a spirit, which is us, right? Our circumstances and perspectives are infinitely diverse, right? Many different ways, according to their many degrees of moral and intellectual development. So our moral development, our intellectual development is predominantly what informs our perspective. So we're going to dig into that a little bit today, thinking again with the intention of our time together tonight being how we can look at our own transformation, who we are and how we are showing up to the situations in our life, because it is our perspective that informs the way that we show up. So these are the things that the spirits say inform our perspective, but you know, what else do you think informs our perspective, right? We know the past does. What else? What else informs your point of view besides your development? Any thoughts?
Family fears.
Family fears, that's a good one. Yeah, that's part of the past too. I love that. What else? What informs the way you think?
Your
Your own fears and desires and stuff.
Your own fears, yes, absolutely. In fact, it's movie night, right? There was a whole thing about fears. Also, our habitual thoughts. We have thoughts that we think without thinking about them, right? I want to talk a little bit about that. Here's what else can inform our perspectives, our automatic reactions. You know, we have automatic thoughts, and then we have automatic reactions based on those thoughts, right? First we feel something, then we have a thought, mostly automatic, then we have a reaction, mostly automatic, right? So our opportunity here is to start thinking through where are our opportunities to transform, right? And again, nothing I've mastered, just what I'm practicing, and would love to talk more. There's also something else that informs our perspective, and this is important. This is like the narratives we create. And what do I mean by that? Let's say something happens to you. We, if we're being honest, know that whatever happened today, let's say somebody at work was unpleasant, right? This happens. We have humans that we work with, they have bad days. Let's say somebody at work today was unpleasant. In our minds, we may feel a kind of way. We think, oh, that person not being very kind. And then we have a reaction. And the reaction is usually informed by the narrative or the story we write. That person never is nice to me. You see, this is the 5th time they've been unkind, and they don't even do their work properly. If they did their work properly, maybe they would be nicer. You know how we do. We write a whole story. But the reality of it is, that's a story. That's not facts. You know what the facts are? At a certain time today, at a certain location, somebody did something. That's it. Everything else is our imagination. It's what we have created based on our, we are the story writers. We are writing the whole story, but we're so good at writing these stories, we think it's true. We write our fiction and call it nonfiction. I mean, I do. I'm assuming this is something that we all do as well, but you know, what else? What else do you think informs our perspective?
Our cultural upbringing. For example, a person from Brazil, a person from the United States or Japan, they have completely different understanding of things.
100% agree. So cultural, like, so your geographic location, the cultures from your location, 100%. What else? Juan?
We feed from, the information we feed from, like the sources we go to.
The sources of information we go to, so like the media or the books we read or the movies we watch or the music we listen to, like that sort of thing, 100% agree. Like there's no, I don't have all the answers, right? But we are constantly receiving data that if we are not being thoughtful about what we're going to do with that data, begins to just sit in the machine and run. And it starts to inform these stories that we write that are not true, that we tell ourselves, this is true, this is what happened. But really, if we think about it, the only thing that's really true is that such and such a latitude and longitude, at a certain time, certain people were there, things were said or done. That's it. How we felt, what we think it meant is all things that we created. So just let that sit there in a cooker for a minute. Yeah, audio. Oh, we're gonna say, okay. So I have a couple things for you to think about. So when you look at this picture, picture? There we go. What do you see?
A rabbit.
A rabbit?
Yes.
Anybody else see a different animal? You see a duck.
Oh my God, yeah.
So is it a rabbit or a duck?
Both. It's a duck.
No, it's a duck.
It's a duck. It's a duck. It's not a rabbit. Who says it's a rabbit? Okay. And nobody else says it's a rabbit? The rabbit?
It looks like it's a rabbit.
Mm-hmm. So could it be both? If you look, depending on your perspective, right? So, yeah, because does everybody? So everybody said duck, right? Does anybody see the rabbit? Because you. Okay, and everybody sees the duck, right? Okay. So can we agree that depending on your perspective, there's both a rabbit and a duck up there?
Yeah.
And can you see getting into an argument with someone, right, about they're saying it's a rabbit, you're saying it's a duck. Forget about rabbits and duck, but you get my point, right? Okay, just park that there. What about this picture? What do you see?
It's a baby.
Okay, you see a baby? Anybody else see a baby?
Oh, yeah.
I see a rabbit. Sorry.
I see the baby. Is it over?
Who does not see the baby? Raise your hand.
I don't see the baby. I see a couple people.
Okay.
And the river and
You don't see the baby?
right?
So this is the baby's face, and then the body.
We have lashes.
We can't see that.
I have lashes too. I got lashes too. Do you see the baby now though?
No.
Oh, let me show you. So look, okay, follow the pencil. So this is the baby's head. That's the nose. That's the eyes. And then this is the arm. This is the knees and the feet and the bottom of the baby.
I can see like the mountains with the big forehead, but I don't see a baby at all. But what about the people? I see people.
Yeah, there's people. There's people there too.
Yeah, I'm squeezing. It's just my fault. But
So this is, it's okay. It's okay. Some of you will see the baby, some of you won't. The truth of it is a picture that has two people by a river, and there's also another picture that has a baby. But you only see some of you saw the baby really fast. Some of you still can't see it. And I don't want you to feel bad, because when I first saw this, notice there's a source here, Racial Equity Institute. I got this from a training. I was one of the people that was like, there is no baby. There is no, you cannot prove to me. They did just what they showed the whole outline, and I was like, that's a picture of some mountains and a river and some people. Don't tell me that.
and a couple there.
Yeah, but if you stared at it a little bit longer, this is what's so interesting, right? So this is the nose of the baby.
Yeah, now I can see the face, but.
And then like these are like it's like, imagine like a fetal position, like inside of a womb.
I get it, but it's the river for me.
Yeah. So this is why this. So are you starting to get this, right? There's pictures. And is there a baby? Yes. Is there a river? Yes. So all of our perspectives where we're so sure what's happening, it's quite possible that there's more to it. Couple more. So if you've seen this picture before, raise your hand if you've seen it before. If you've seen it before, please don't say anything. All right, so for those of you, and you've seen it too, okay, thanks. If you have not seen this picture before, tell me what you see. Do you see a young woman or an old woman? Okay, have you seen this picture before? Okay, so you see both. Does anybody, who only sees one person? Only sees one?
Now I can
And do you see a young one or old one? Old one. You don't see the young woman?
The first one I saw was a young lady with her back, and when I look at this side, right here,
When you change your perspective. Carla, which one do you see? Carla? Just a young one? So who wants to tell her where the old lady is? Where's the old lady? Marilyn.
Okay, she's in the front, like the old lady's eye is the young lady's ear.
Mm-hmm. So the old lady, she has her nose, and then her mouth and her chin. Right?
There's a lady.
Yes, and then there's a young lady. This is her ear, that's her nose, and she's looking that way. Right?
I also see like an
Vic. You see a cat. Yes.
the young lady had.
Yeah. So here's why this is important. Once again, depending on your perspective, someone, or I think it was you that said, when I look over here,
Young girl.
you see the young girl. When she looks over there, she's able to see the older lady because she changed her point of view. She changed her perspective. This is important. Stay with me. So no more hidden pictures. Look at this picture. What do you think this person's feeling? Anybody? Angry. Okay. She's mad. Surprised. Okay. She's about to sneeze. Most people say angry. Renato, what did you see? Did she have your hand up?
I see a hungry person.
A hungry person.
Hungry.
We always get back to that.
We always get back to that. Yeah, as a food lover, I resemble that comment. Did somebody else? Frustration? Desperation. So, in this, again, this is the same source as racial equity. Oh, hey, it's brightening up. In the class that I took and the trainings that they present, they always say that the first thing you hear is anger, and that was the first thing we heard today. Like, that's the initial reaction. This person is angry. But you know what? We've taken our time. Someone else said surprise. Somebody else said hungry. But what if she was really excited? What if she was at a soccer football game and she was cheering on her team? Is this not just as pop? What if could she be singing? She could be singing a beautiful song and hitting that high note. Oh, we don't, the truth is, we don't know. But we rush right to what we think it is. Whoever said angry had it out of their mouth flat. I was that person in the last class. So I'm like, oh, she pissed off. Look at that. She vexed. But we don't know. So here's the thing. You'll notice I've asked you a few times today, what else? What else? What else? This is the critical question for us to ask ourselves. This is my practice right now, is saying what else? What else could she be feeling besides anger?
She could be singing a very passionate opera with strength in her.
Right? Which is, and how we would feel if she was singing an opera versus how we would feel if she was angry, how we would show up to that dialogue would be different. Okay. So the truth is, we never have the whole story. We just don't. This is a quote from Thich Nhat Hanh. It's 3 simple words. Are you sure? There's a whole tenet of the sacred tradition of Buddhism that is called mistaken perception, and that we never, ever have the whole story. We just don't. It's impossible for us to have the whole story. And because we don't have the whole story, asking ourselves, what else, is so important. And, if we think about, I had this meditation teacher, he's in Australia now. His name is Andrew G. Weiss. He's a Zen Buddhist priest. His teacher, Zen Master Sung San, had this 2-phrase mantra, don't know, don't know. When in doubt, don't know. And I couldn't really get with that because this was my teacher and I'm learning from him so I can know, right? I mean, that's kind of why I'm hanging out with this teacher, so I could learn. And I'm learning what? So I can know. And every time I would ask something, he would say, just don't know. And I would struggle with that. And then we were in a class, there was other people with us, and they were struggling too. We were all kind of struggling. And he was so loving and so patient. And we all could feel like how loving and patient he was being. And then he said, I think I've got it. He said, do you all feel a sense of love here? And we were like, yes, because we were all stuck. There's probably 15 of us, and we couldn't get it because we didn't know, right? But I'll leave that to the side. And he said, everyone feels the love here, though, right? Even though we're struggling, you feel the love. And we all said yes. And he said, but if you took a heart and we just drew a big heart around this, we would be capturing the idea of love. But what about all that's outside of this shape? It's still in this room, and we've left it out by calling it love. The truth is, we don't know. And I said, okay. And am I sure? No. But if I am honest about what I don't know, I have a much greater opportunity of actually learning something. But when I decide I know, I've made up my mind. Like there was a little book from Oprah that came out a few years ago called What I Know for Sure. So I picked that up. So what I know for sure is XYZ. And what I know for sure is ABC. And you know what I know for sure now? That everything I said I knew for sure I didn't know a damn thing about and stopped learning the whole time I was saying that. Now I understand I'm not trashing Oprah. I think she's amazing and I got what she was doing. She was having a book of affirmations. I just took it to the next level like I do sometimes because I'm extra. But, but the truth is, when we are faced with a situation, the first thing we have to ask ourselves, once we've written the story, that they're angry, that it's a duck, that it's an old woman, that it's a river, are you sure? What else could possibly be seeking to emerge? But here's why we do this. So there's a behavioral economist named Daniel Kahneman, and he has this book called Two Systems Thinking. So he has this model, right, that we have two systems. Our first system that we have, this is like our unconscious mind, and it works really, really fast. This is like what scans for threats. We don't have to think about it. It takes no effort. It's fast. It uses like patterns and associations to inform our decisions. It happens unconsciously. And the science says that it's approximately between 1 to 11 million bits of information that our brain is presented with per second. But let's, for sake of argument, let's say it's only 1 million. How much of that do you think we can actually process, right? Out of the 1 million, every second, 1 million bits of information is given to us. How many of those do you think we process? Just throw me a number. 1%, so one out of 1 million would be 1% would be 10,000. So 10,000 is, okay. Any other guesses? Out of 1 million bits of information every second that your brain as a supercomputer is processing, A 1/4%, so that would be 2,500. Somebody said 0. No, we're processing. So I do the math for me. How many is that? 100. Okay, so the answer is 40. 0.004% of what we get. That's why this fast brain is here. So out of behavioral economics tells us that our fast brain is there to keep us alive, to help us process. That's why it's here. It's a good thing. However, it does cause us some problems if we don't also keep in mind our second system of thinking. So our system 2, thinking this is our conscious mind, right? It takes work. We have to stop and think like we did, is it a baby? Is she angry? It took us a while to get to opera. Is it a duck? Is it a rabbit? It takes time, right? It's slow, requires reason. Sometimes uses logic, it's our conscious mind, but it takes work, right? So this is the second mind, it's available to us, right? And this is something that we can begin to use. We can use science to inform how we practice. But what are the results? If we live in system 1, 95 to 98% of the time, and it's firmly in charge until we say it isn't. It's only in charge until we say it isn't. Then, what are the results of that, right? Uninformed judgment. You may have noticed, right? I've given a couple talks so far, talked about judgment. Why? Because I'm working on being less judgmental. Talked about suffering. Why? Because I'm interested in managing my suffering in healthy ways and keeping my body healthy, right? So everything I'm sharing with you is stuff I'm working on. So unconscious bias, right? Where like racism and other things live. This happens from spending too much time in system 1. It also keeps us stuck in the past. Because the patterns and associations, like Hanato said, were based on where we grow up. Somebody else said our family. Juan said what we consume, that what we consume. All of this, once you consume something, where is it? It's in the past. Once you're done consuming, it's in the past. It's no longer in the present moment, right? So if we're not being thoughtful, we're not using that second system, and ultimately it produces suffering for us. But remember, the purpose of this talk is to help us think about how we can transform. So how we can change our perspective. And I think we can. Would you agree we can change our perspective, right? Everybody agree we can do this? Anybody disagree? Anybody think you cannot do this? Because some of us, I've heard no one here, but I have people in my life that say, look, I'm just like this. I was just born this way. This is how I am. I'm this age, and I've been like this for a long time. I have accepted that this is the way that I am. Anybody know anybody like that? Yeah. Like, this is the way that I am, right? So if we had one of those beautiful souls here, they might say, no, because this is the way that I am. I'm like this. And that's okay, too. That is okay. That's free will. But a spiritual point of view, this is from the introduction to the gospel, it says the man who considers things in a down-to-earth fashion, because that's a thing we say in the States, I'm down to earth. I'm not all pie in the sky. I'm realistic. I'm down to earth. We say this like it's a beautiful thing. If you've ever heard Americans, I don't know if in Brazil you have a similar saying, but it's something people puff up like, yeah, I'm down to earth, right? That's a good thing, right? But what we're being told here is that to see things in their truth, that a person who's down to earth is only deceiving himself or herself. And that to see things in their true perspective, we must look upon them from high up, and that is to say from the spiritual point of view. So that's what the last half of this talk is going to be about, how we can shift our perspective to, I wouldn't say not just instantly to a spiritual point of view, but how we can take some steps along the way, right? And so the first one is from neuroscience. There's a branch of neuroscience called NLP. Has anyone heard of this, neuro-linguistic programming? Yeah, so yeah, I'm a NLP master prac, right? So this will be familiar to you, Carla, right? So perceptual positions. So the idea here is that usually we have a situation, right? The coworker was being rude. My wife said something mean to me. My husband did not wash the car. Like whatever the thing is, because we're so creative and diligent about finding things to be irritated about, right? So pick one, whatever that last thing. Was there anybody that was not irritated today? You didn't get irritated about anything? Raise your hand. This is awesome. Oh, Carly, do you have a question?
For NLP, o brasileiro doesn't know, PNL, programação neurolinguística. NLP, que ela estava falando. Ou sound rapid translation for NLP.
Oh, neuro-linguistic programming. Thank you, Carla. So we have the situation. The first perspective that we usually take is the self, right? This happened to me. My wife said this to me. My husband did not clean my thing. The coworker was rude to me. We place ourselves at the center. It's about us, and we imagine the situation like through it's happening through our own eyes. We're only seeing what we see, and we're receiving. And this is like the first system, right? Because we can only do 40 bits of information out of the million. So we do what's most important. We prioritize what's happening to us, and everything else kind of takes a back seat. But if we ask what else, and we slow ourselves down a little bit, right? The second opportunity is the second position. That's where I can say, if let's take I'm not married, so I can't use the husband or wife, but let's say like the coworker, I can say, what was it like for the coworker to see me in this situation, right? What was the coworker responding to when they said what they said? Right? Because people don't just come out of the woodwork and just, right? There's usually an interaction. So it's, how do I, this is the old, I don't know if you have it in staying in Brazil and America, we say like, take a walk in the other person's shoes, right? So this is where you like, wonder what the other person's perspective is. Now, many of us have learned to do this. This is relatively easy if we take the time. Well, here's where it gets a little interesting, is that we can take the third person or the third position, which is the observer. That would be, let's say, I'm sitting over there, my coworker walks in and says, whatever they say that is, I find unpleasant. But the third perspective would be, what's your name? Vanessa. So the observer might be, I could take like a perspective from where Vanessa is sitting and say, what's it like to watch this happen? And I would probably get more information, right? I could see what I was doing, I could see what the other person was doing, and I could see the interaction, which you can't see if you're only looking from your perspective or the other one's. You with me? Then the fourth and most powerful one, right, is this meta position, right? So the first one is I. The second one is like you. Like we're having this interaction. I think first I, secondly is you. From Vanessa's perspective, you're watching what they are doing. But the top one is the meta position. It's actually watching the observer too. So that might be, let's say, from the observation booth back there, that's Manny or Luigi back there watching Vanessa observe me and my coworker. They're going to get a different perspective too. So when we look at the things in our life and we begin to look at them from these different perceptual positions, you can imagine, what might happen. You remember this first 1-point drawing? We can only see the front. But when you take that meta position, it's like you can see the whole city. You can see all these buildings. That 3rd-point drawing we saw was only like 6 or 7 buildings. You can see everything when you elevate, like that spirit told us, right? That we elevate our position, we can see more, right? And so I think it's, we've been studying this on Thursday nights. Maybe Rafael, you could tell us what chapter. I think it was chapter 12, maybe chapter 9, when we talked about anger. It's one of the ones we've just studied. Yeah, I think it's Blessed Are the Meek, but I cannot remember the chapter number. But anyway, we've been studying it on Thursday night, and there was this section on anger. And if you've ever read this, it's horrifying. It basically says something to the effect of, if you could see yourself when you are angry, you would be terrified and embarrassed that you have made yourself an object of pity based on when you're breaking things out of your pride. If you could see how ridiculous and pathetic you look, you would not do it. Right? And that made me think about, if we could take the observer or the meta position, right? So we're getting clues here now, from the spirits telling us about this. So we have some opportunities to practice, right? And there are windows of opportunity for us, right? And so we think about like the process, right? This is generally how our world gets boxed up, right? We feel something happens, we feel something, then we have a thought about it, right? The feelings come first, because most of our feelings are instinctive. We have a feeling about it, then we have a thought about it, then we react. This is pretty much how we operate. But there's windows of opportunities here for us to think about changing our perspective. Where do y'all think the window is? So between feeling and thought, or between thought and reaction? Between thought and reaction? Everyone agree? Between both? Between feeling and thought? Between thought and reaction? Yes, I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. However, here's the thing, is that this one is easier for us because the mastery of thought is a lot harder. It's once we've had the thought and we're making the choice to react, there's a little more time. There's a book called Thought in Life by Emmanuel that talks about the importance of mastering our thoughts and the difficulty that we have. If it were easy for us to master our thoughts, we would be doing it. So that's a practice, and it can be done. But so there are two windows, but the window we'll talk about today is between thought and reaction. And so, when we think about that second window, when we react to something, again, I looked it up in the dictionary. React, it's like to act again. You're reacting. Re means to do something again. So when we react, this is not a new behavior. We are doing something from the past again. Think about that. Did you ever think about that? They're like, what's your reaction? This is like what I'm repeating from the past. And it's from our ego, right? Our past thing, it's from our ego. But we have another opportunity to interact, right? And that we interact when we get curious about what is seeking to emerge. Because all that what else, it's what else could emerge? Could a duck emerge from this rabbit? Could an old lady emerge from the young woman? Could a baby emerge from now these are all pictures, but from the interaction we just had, right, the fictional interaction with my coworker, could something else have emerged? Was there an opportunity for me to learn something? What was seeking to emerge? But in order to do that, when we seek to emerge what is outside of our ego and personality and in the realm of consciousness and love, because basically that situation I described, you know what that was? It was so simple. It was an opportunity for me to love. That's it. That's all it was. I can add all the narrative I want, but the reality for me, as a student of transformation, as someone who deeply wants to transform, not there yet, it was an opportunity to love. That's it. But I couldn't get there if I was just taking that first one. And the thing is, of course, to get there, we have to use our hearts first, right? So if I could step out of my mind and go into my heart, that would have been a lot easier to get there. And this idea of interacting, there's a term that, of interbeing. Has anyone heard this term, interbeing, that there's a state of being, interbeing? Anyone heard this? Yes? You've heard it, Carla? Yes? Maybe? Okay. So I once heard it said that when you drink tea, you're drinking clouds. Is this possible? Yeah, when you're drinking tea, is this possible? Well, let's think about it. If I'm drinking tea, I am drinking the steeped liquid from dried plants, right? That's what tea is, right? So the plants, before they were dried, were alive, right? When they were alive, how they grew big enough to be pulled and harvested for tea, they were watered and they lived in the ground and had soil and sunshine and rain, right? And then the rain came from the clouds, right? So we can say that the rain has elements of the cloud in it, right? And then the tea leaves has elements of the rain and the cloud, and the tea plant was in the soil, so it has elements of the soil. So when you're drinking the tea, you're drinking clouds, you're drinking soil. You with me? Like there's an interconnectedness to it all. So when we think about interacting, how can we interact with what happens to us with that larger sense of connectedness? This is a question for us, right? And so we have these opportunities to practice, right? So if we want to practice, the first requirement is that we have to slow down and use that second system. And is that hard? Yeah. But if inner transformation was, done. I pressed the button, I took the blue pill, I'm there. It wouldn't be a thing, right? So of course it's hard. But there are situations where we can practice. So for example, like receiving feedback. This is one of the hardest things. When someone says, can I give you some feedback? How many of us go, yes, I'm so excited. Usually we're like, okay. And we're like, fake smile. Okay. What do you want to tell me? And then inside we're like, This is how we react, right? But you know what you can do? Let me give you the best 2 words when someone's giving feedback. Let them say yes. Let them talk. When they're done, you say 2 things. What do you think those 2 things are?
Thank you. What else?
Who said that? What else? No, you did. What else? What else? They will be shocked. They're expecting you to fall out, to defend yourself, or say, thanks for sharing, right? That's what they're expecting. When you say what else, it throws people off. They're like, you're going to let me tell, you're going to let, actually, let them keep going. And when they're done, guess what you say? What else? And you keep saying what else until they're done. I will tell you, every time I've done this, I did this today. It was the fourth what else that I actually got to what was bothering this person. And it was not what they told me the first time. The fourth what else is when we got to what was, because they realized after each what else that I was listening, I was present, I could hear it, I wasn't defending myself. And when I finally got to what was really wrong, I was like, wow, what would you have wanted to see differently? Half of what they said I didn't even think was true. Was that my job? No. Just what did you want to see? What did you want? What got missed? Sometimes people can share that, sometimes they can't. But by the time they get there, is your side of the story, does it even matter at that point? No. When someone gives you feedback, that's your opportunity to love them and hold space and maybe learn something. By the time when they were done, I instantly saw I had like 4 things I got to quickly correct. Quickly, like tomorrow. Like tomorrow morning, I have things at work I have to correct post-haste because I listened and asked what else enough times, right? And then, of course, when I was done, somebody said the 2 words are thank you. That's for the very end. Because after all that, I said, what should be done differently? They told me. I said, what else? Till they were out of steam. And then I said, thank you. Right? So you what else until they're out of steam with what's wrong, then you ask what they want differently, and you what else until they're out of steam, then you thank them. Never is it about what my intention was, what I was trying to do, and if we do this for people, we'll actually get feedback that's useful. Like I learned 4 mistakes that I'm making in my work right now that I wouldn't have known. 4 big mistakes that I will fix, like first thing, they're easy to fix if somebody just told me. But I wouldn't know if I hadn't asked what else, right? So it's all these opportunities to practice, right? Conflict, and we're wrapping up here. Conflict. You know, most of the time when we have a conflict, we think because there's a disagreement, right? We have a conflict because you did something I disagree with, or I've done something you disagree with, or there's a situation that's happening that I don't think should be happening and you do, or you think should be happening and I don't. There's a disagreement, right? But you know what? If we were to say what else, you know what else is possible in a conflict? Well, yes, that's how you get there. Is it possible that there's not a disagreement, but a misunderstanding? Yeah. Right? We automatically go, there's a conflict, we disagree. If we take the time to talk, we ask the what else, seek to understand, take the different perceptual positions, use your second system, ask the question what else. You can, 9 out of 10 conflicts. I mean, Juan, I don't know if you know, I know this is your area of expertise, but do you have an idea, like out of all conflicts, what percentage is disagreement versus misunderstanding? Are most of them misunderstandings, would you say? Problems. Say that again?
Yeah, it's problems with information.
Problems with information. Right, people don't understand. There's not enough information for people to understand. From the conflict expert, Mr. Juan himself, right? Don't trust me. Yes.
But what do you think if we ask what else so many times that we actually cause our own suffering because of all the feedback? What if they don't stop? You know what I'm saying?
So people will eventually stop. They will. But how you hold space for yourself is, most importantly, is to breathe slowly and deeply. Because the suffering that gets caused for us is that we could potentially feel attacked, right? And we feel attacked, our body goes into fight or flight mode, and then all of these like biological systems go into play that raise our heart rate and put cortisol into our system, like the parasympathetic nervous system just explodes, and our amygdala, that's a part of our brain it's a part of our brain that gets hijacked when we are in fight or flight. But the science says that if we breathe slowly and deeply, we can trick the body into thinking it's safe again. It restores homeostasis, or it restores the parasympathetic nervous system to its natural state, and then we can think clearly again. So the trick, if you're listening and you're saying the what else and they're saying things, because there was a point today where about maybe the 3rd what else, and I was thinking to myself, what you're saying isn't even true. And I could feel myself start to react. Just breathe. Just breathe. And there was a pause, when she was done. She was probably waiting to see how I reacted to what she just said. I just said, what else? And I just kept breathing. And then we got to what she said. So for us to hold our own reaction, right, is the first thing is to breathe slowly and deeply, and to help us to think, what else is seeking to emerge here?
Because you mentioned
what else besides you wanted to change is actually because of the miscommunication from the perspective. So it's not just you that has to be.
Sure. Yeah, so there's been many times I see. So let's say you're asking what else, you get the feedback, and I think I understand your question now. And then it turns out that you do kind of need to give some additional context. I say, thank you for telling me this. I value our relationship. Can we pick this up tomorrow? I'd like to think about this. Could we pick this up tomorrow? I could easily come back with something to say right now that wouldn't be reflective of how much I care about you. So let me think about it, and let's talk again tomorrow. And then you're calm the next day, and they're calm the next day. When you tell people you care about them, so you want to take time to give them a response that shows how much you love them, that's a deeply respectful and profound thing to say. And it buys you time, and it also gives them time to calm down. Yeah. And that works, by the way, not just with coworkers, that works with like husbands, wives, kids, parents, friends, family. The world. All right. But the most important thing is that meditation and prayer are key to building this habit, right? If you don't have a good meditation practice, it will be hard to remember to breathe. This is really, really important. So if you don't have a meditation practice, I strongly recommend coming on Tuesday nights. I know Cynthia does a beautiful job in facilitating a guided meditation. That's a great place to start. If you already have a practice, keep practicing. Add a minute or two a day until you can, try and get to maybe 20 minutes. 20 minutes, they say, is the magic number at a minimum where you can really start to really connect with the deeper part of yourself and see some profound change. And prayer, it's, by the way, it's totally okay to pray to your guardian angel and ask for help. Say, hey, I'm trying to build this spiritual gift, this virtue. Whatever intuition and guidance you want to give me, you have the permission. Like, that's fine to do. There's nothing wrong with that. We're so quick to pray for that car, for that husband, that pair of shoes. Like, why not ask for help building our ability to change our perspective? But there's also one more window as we get ready to wind down. Where do you all think this window is? Do you think it's here or on the other side? Yes. So this is what I call the do-over. So in my family, we have something called a do-over. My children taught me about the do-over. This isn't some magnificent idea that I and my wisdom as a divine parent brought to the table. This is something my divine teens sat me down and said, Ma, let's school you right quick. There's something called a do-over. And a do-over is when you do something and you did it wrong and you get the feedback. Hey, I would have wanted to see it this way. And then you have the opportunity to do it again. Let me tell you a quick story. I know we're almost done here. So my guru, my 18-year-old daughter, my 18-year-old daughter had a bad habit of not having the kitchen clean when I came home from work. So about day 4 of this, I was like, have the kitchen clean when I come home Friday. This is Thursday, every day. I come home Friday, kitchen's dirty. I started to yell, why is the kitchen not clean? And how many times have I told you? I'm sure if I had taken the second or third position meta and saw myself, I would have been, I'm embarrassed to even say it now. This child comes calmly down the stairs and she waits for me to finish. And she says, Mom, what's more important to you right now? Having the kitchen clean or letting me know how angry you are that it's dirty? Which one's more important? So I got this very stupid, embarrassed look on my face. Didn't have the answer. Started to cry. And I said, I want a do-over. I picked up my laptop bag. I picked up my keys and my phone. I walked out the door, shut the door, locked it, cried some more, prayed a little, tried to get myself together, like be very divine momish. Came back in the house and, hi, Manuel, I'm home. I said, hey, are you hungry? She said, yes. I said, if you clean the kitchen, I'll make some food. And she said, okay. She said, Mom, wasn't that easier? If she had been rude, disrespectful, sarcastic, I could have attacked the delivery of the message. It was flawless. I got the feedback, I got a chance to do the do-over, and I said, yes, it was easier. And Monday, please have the kitchen clean when I get home. Thank you. But that's a powerful example of the feedback, the do-over, right? Also, a do-over is, sometimes the way that we react, it requires an apology. And I had to apologize. I had to say that was easier, and I'm sorry, because coming home, who wants to, your parent comes home, that's the first thing you hear? I mean, that's not giving you the warm and fuzzies and, oh, I feel so loved. I have such a divine parent. She's so evolved. And that's not what you're not getting that. Or maybe you need to forgive. Maybe the do-over is instead of you responding the way you did, you go back and offer forgiveness. There's always an opportunity for a do-over. And beginning again, one of my favorite phrases, it's a powerful practice, right? It helps us transform inside. It's never too late to begin again. It's never too late. There's never an age that is too late to begin again. It's never too late. And the choice is ours. I have some quotes from two very special people in my life, right? So last week, Luigi said, free will is not in the mind or in the mouth, it's in the heart. I had never heard that before. So those of you that know me know I have my little notebook, wrote it down. And it's true. So we have to make the choice whether we'll do this practice or not. And it comes from our hearts. And then at the movie night, I love what Cynthia said. She said, once you change your perspective, you can't unsee it. You don't remember saying that?
No.
Oh, yeah, well, you did. I know because I wrote it down. But do you agree? Is it?
Totally.
Okay, yeah. So you can't unsee anything you saw tonight. We've all seen it, right? We can't unsee it. The choice is ours. And so as we wrap up, a good perspective. This is from the book, What is Spiritism by Allan Kardec. He says, certainty about the future life and its consequences completely changes the order of people's ideas, and it enables them to see matters from a different perspective. The veil is lifted, and they discover an immense and splendid horizon. In light of the infinite and the grandeur of the life beyond the grave, this present life vanishes, like a second before the centuries, like a grain of sand before the mountain. This is our opportunity. This is our gift, our opportunity. So that is what I had for you tonight. Thank you so much. This is a quote. It says, wealth, if you use it, comes to an end. Learning, if you use it, increases. This is from the Swahili language. So if you learned anything of value tonight, please share it with someone else. There's a book called anyone heard of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? There's a book called The 8th Habit, and it talks about how when you teach something as you're learning it, that it gets into you more. So if you've learned anything of value tonight, share it with someone else, and we can all, learn and grow together and have some perspectives that are worth having. So thank you so much, everyone. Wow.